Excellent. So, hello guys. Welcome to tonight's Can You Poet, which we're doing South Asian style. So, really looking forward to hearing all of your different sets. Obviously, tonight we are battling against the big football match, but hey, you know, anybody who's not watching this is missing out big time, because I mean, come on, they're not going to win, are they, tonight? It's like, it's not going to happen. And you can catch that later on, but you don't want to miss this live. My name is Shabnam Anam. I am a British Bangladeshi, first generation. I was born in Worcester in 1970. My parents came to Britain from Kumilla and Dhaka in Bangladesh, and they came here in about 1968. I was about 6 months old when they sent me back to Bangladesh on my own, on a plane with well-meaning air stewards, and then obviously the War of Independence broke out, and my mum had to make the journey about 18 months after they'd sent me to get me back. And this kind of story has always been there, you know, of like my grandparents and all the families and the things that they did. And it sort of permeated my life, but it never really took hold. It never really resonated or made much sense. And the kind of, you know, the kind of what was behind that is the fact that I grew up here in this country where my heritage has not been acknowledged. You know, nothing that I learned at school or in society, in the community, none of that had anything to do or reflected my heritage, to the point that, you know, I hid from that and didn't really know how to deal with it. And that came much later. So, you know, what Trey does through organizing these events and getting people on to say their piece is just amazing. And, you know, I love him to bits. He's my surrogate kid. And you know, I just think he's amazing. So thank you, Trey, for organizing all of this. I agreed to kind of host. And I noticed you've got me down on the set list, so that was naughty. I didn't see that. Yeah, playing cheeky games. So I have got a bit of spoken word, I don't know, narrative that I'll do later. But we're going to start with Umar. Where are you on my screen? Can I see you? No, I can't. I think you've got your camera off and your mic off. Oh, you're there. Yay. Excellent.
Hello there.
Hi. Brilliant. You are a spoken word. You're going to do some spoken word for us. And a performance. You're a performance poet, as we can see. Do you want to kind of say a little bit about yourself, Umar, and then get straight into it?
Thank you very much, Shabnam. So much like yourself, I am a British Bangladeshi. My parents, I was here. My parents are from Bangladesh, specifically Sylhet. I was born in 1990. Some people may know me as Uma, but the artist name with the mask, and perhaps I grew long hair in the last 5 minutes, is known as Dre Zero. And essentially, in life, I've had to battle through really, where is my cultural identity? Because I was born in this country, Yet, whilst only being in Bangladesh only on 2 occasions on holiday, uh, and also the culture upbringing I've been brought up by my parents, it does has this kind of like ignoring effect as to where am I in this kind of divide. But of course, I think I'm learning more and more as time goes by now that I'm in my 31st year of existence. So, with all due and said, my first poem is titled Shapeshifter's Lullaby. It goes like this. 3 decades of this battered body, misunderstood by everybody. I want to be somebody, yet I am nobody. Shaping this future is difficult. Standing the rough edge of this rock, I'm miserable. I don't know where to turn, forever unstable. As this body is burdened by labels. Cut tension with a knife as light fades. I wish this shapeshifter of mine would find grace. As I want my malignant side to lose face. I've got my eyes down my iron sides as time makes use of my tired eyes, and I have felt lost my entire life. Now the hourglass is running out, and the sun is running down, and the rain is pouring out, and no longer I am loud, no longer I'm allowed, no longer I'm allowed, no longer am I proud, no longer am I a shapeshifter, no longer I'm a shapeshifter. Thank you! So yeah, it's an amazing event. This amazing event that Trey has put together of South Asian poets. I mean, it's amazing to see people of the same or similar heritage all together, performing poetry together. It's really awesome. I mean, we all have our own different stories and different tales to tell, but it's pretty awesome. It's pretty awesome. It's amazing. Loving it. So my next poem is titled Bind Me Shut. So Bind Me Shut is a poem which does have a dark side to a specific Asian custom which is more or less eroded away. So Bind Me Shut is essentially a poem talking about the pain and suffering of the foot binding within cultures in China centuries ago. Essentially, the smaller your feet, the more for a woman, the more quote unquote higher up you are in the estimation for men. But it's a terrible practice, and so this is Bind Me Shut. It goes like this. Pain, tradition, stain, delusion. Pain, tradition, stain, dilution. Stitched on mercilessly in this selfish cackle. Imprisoned by loved ones. Look for your bruised daughter. Pain, tradition, stain, delusion. Pain, tradition, stain, contortion. Cut my skin, swell and belch. These profound laughs drink my mother's tear. Pain, tradition, stain, delusion. Pain, tradition, stain, disruption. Odd men dictate, the architect collapses, and bind my shut to numb. I am not my mother's daughter. Pain, tradition, stain, delusion. Pain, tradition, stain, stop. Thank you, thank you. And so I have 2 more poems on my set, and once again, thank you, Trey, for allowing me to open up. It really means a lot to me. Yeah. But yeah, it's crazy because of course learning about my parents' culture and how they've been brought up, and a bit what Shabnam has said. My dad fought in the War of Independence for Bangladesh in the 70s. He was a soldier, and my mum, she had to abscond from Bangladesh in order to get to this country, the UK, in order to flee from war. She was very, very young back then. But yeah, it is incredible how time has passed, and yeah, it's just really it boggles the mind how time flies. I mean, it was only a few years ago I met Trey. I believe it was either in Northampton. I believe it was Northampton. It was a Can You Poet event. I believe it was in Black History Month. I remember this, and that's how I met Trey, and Trey's an amazing guy. So, speaking about culture, this poem is called Runaway Culture. It's about how people are seeking asylum from war-torn countries, and it goes like this. My home has turned into famine. Festering bodies, gathering flies. They hold hands like carnivores. The carbine signals that the parade has started. The foreign soldiers laugh. Their smiles, machine gun fire. I run for all that I once loved. My culture feels heavy in these suitcases. Thank you. Thank you. And so I will leave you with one final poem. And this one is a bit of a lighter affair because I feel I've been a little bit on the more macabre side of poetry. So this is titled Stand on the Sky. It goes like this. Stand on the sky, pure as the night. Stand on the sky, let there be light. Head in the clouds, for I am proud. Heads up, hands up is loud. Clap to the sound. Stand on the sky, pure as the night. Stand on the sky, let there be light. Drop through the blue, wings hold and move. Air seals the truth, life breathes in you. Stand on the sky, pure as the night. Stand with the sky, light up the smile. Thank you very much, everybody. My name is Choudrey, and I shall switch over to my other device. If you want to find me on social media, I shall give a all-in-one link. Thank you very much. Much love, and I look forward to hearing all of you. And I shall see you later. Goodbye.
Big up there for Dre Zira. Thank you. Also Umar behind the mask. That was a really interesting set. Nice kind of mix of different themes there. And nice to see Celeste getting represented here tonight. I visited Celeste once. Again, like you, Umar, really, Bangladesh. It only came into view few times when we went on holiday, so I definitely resonated what you were saying about your own kind of your upbringing and this distance with your parents' heritage. So we're going to move on, and next up is Shani Cadwallander, who I have to confess I love very much. Not only for her poetry, but because she's my daughter. Shani is a well-seasoned poet, published by Drake. She has a pamphlet out called Crow's Diet. She is very much interested in birds, trees, and all things natural, but is also very staunch feminist on the left and all-round amazing person, and that's just not me talking, but so Shani, you're gonna are you gonna do a new poem for us tonight?
That's right. As you can see, I'm a woman on the edge. I'm a teacher. I just got back from work, and as you can tell from my hair, I'm broken. But I did on the bus this morning manage to write a new poem, which I hope you won't see as a token of disrespect if I read tonight. It is on the topic of race, so I thought it was fitting. But I'll read you that one a bit later on. Thanks to Trey and to Shabs, aka Mum, for hosting this awesome event. And I'm going to read 3 poems tonight. And the one that I'll start with is sort of an exploration of my mixed raceness. So you can see my mum over there. My dad's a white working class man from the northeast of England. And my surname, Cadwallander, that you can see on the screen there, is Welsh. And my first name is, I think, Iranian, Mum? Yeah. So I'm named after my great-grandmother, and essentially throughout my life, people have found my name baffling and confusing, and have kind of done, like, especially white people, done a kind of offensive Indian accent when pronouncing my surname, even though it's a Welsh name. So this poem was inspired by having to fill in the census and ticking the box that says other, and nothing brings home a sense of disconnectedness from identity or of not fitting into any particular box than having to tick other. So this is other, please specify. When you ask where I'm really from, what can I say? I'm as vast as the sea's multitudinous sway, and the storms I have weathered, you'll never deny me. The places I come from are places inside me, and England is mine and it owes me a living. The things I have got, I deserve to be given. Are you asking for history? What's in a name? A mirror of memory from a line of saints, Tyneside toughened, hard to shatter, nut brown, ale pale, rain-soaked patter, glinting shards in your grey matter. My nationality? To round it down, I'm Welsh, Scottish, Irish, English, and brown, with a Persian name handed like recipes down from Bengali grandparents in a northern town. And if you go barking up my family tree, it's a flowering bower, roots deep as the sea, and its branches reach corners that you'll never see, and your kind's paltry poison won't get rid of me. How can history be lost if we're making it now? Paying slaveholders off with the sweat of our brows. But I won't tick your boxes when making my mark, and you'll be the one who stays locked in the dark when you can't file me neatly away on your shelf. Other, please specify. I am myself. That was just a little hint of nuance there. Thank you for your virtual claps. So I'm now going to read you the new poem, and I was thinking about this morning on the way to work. In my previous school, I worked with a colleague who is about the age of my mum, actually, and she's a first generation British-born Indian, and she definitely identifies as a Hindu and as being kind of having a very strong Indian cultural heritage. But I remember a conversation we had where she said to me, she described herself as a coconut and said that essentially she was brown on the outside, but she felt she was culturally white. And I said, well, what does culturally white mean? Because surely, like, whiteness is a fact of skin, and you're a brown person who does all of the things that you do. So you know, I kind of challenged her on that. And I was thinking about the importance of metaphors, the metaphors we use to describe ourselves, particularly as people of colour, but as people in general, and how those metaphors might enhance or detract from our complexity. So this is coconut. You said, I'm a coconut, white on the inside, brown on the surface, and proud of it too. I, struck by that likening, paled in comparison, wondered how strange to yourself it made you. Wondered who told you to make yourself smaller, shaved down to a contrast to make you fit in. Wondered who told you the things that you're made of belong to some body with different skin. I said, I'm a plane tree, an infinite hybrid, a lush, skin-cracked tower of shelter and shade. I thrive in the city, resisting pollution and growing resilient with every blade. And when you cut through me, you see what I've lived through. And where you cut through me, the color's the same. See, metaphor's a thing of power, a frame that teaches us to be. And I'll allow myself the language that I love to set me free. Thank you. You kind of have to know quite a lot about plane trees for that one to resonate, but there it is. I'm not ashamed of my tree love. So
go ahead, just tell us about plane trees, because this is something new that I didn't know about. So
yes, yeah. So I live in London, and the most common type of tree here is a plane tree, which is a type of sycamore, and it's a hybrid species, and it is capable of infinite hybridity, which means that it can breed basically with any type of sycamore, and so each individual plane could be a mixture of hundreds of other individual subspecies. So I thought that was the good thing about planes is that they're resistant to pollution because their skin flakes off, well, their bark flakes off, and they grow tall, and that's good for cities too, so buses don't kind of crash into them. So when I was thinking about what would be a fitting metaphor for me, I thought the plane tree is a good one. So my final poem today is about the other side of my heritage, if you want to phrase it that way, which is my white working class heritage. And I wrote this poem about my nana, my paternal grandmother. And I decided to include this one because, in the name of nuance, essentially, because she and the kinds of things she represents and that were in her life are just as much a part of my cultural heritage as my maternal grandparents' Bengaliness. So this, my nana was an incredible woman, as you'll detect from this poem, and she was the working class wife of a shipbuilder and then of a school teacher, and you'll get the sense of her, hopefully, from this. And this poem is called Foundations. As I recall, this house was built on her flat vowels, on cork-tiled floor, nicotine ceilings, chip pan grease, pebble-dashed feelings. I've no time to haunt you, she said. I'll be busy there and all. Bright as burnished pit brass, she laughed, left no ghost in wood chip walls. As it remains, her house is gone. Not that it crushed her, as I remember, only raised me. Thank you very much.
Woohoo! Thank you very much, Shani. Thank you for dashing on the bus or wherever it was to get, however you got back from school, and giving us some of your time. Absolutely love those poems. New one was great. Nice little set, actually, kind of all fits together. So thank you. Hope you stick around and enjoy the rest of the sets from everybody else.
I certainly will. I can't wait to see what everybody's come up with.
Excellent. So next up we have Aran. So heresiarch of hive mind, I'm told. There's another word that I've learned today. Not just what it means, but how to say it as well. I heard that was a new one for me. So apparently you make the word laundry sound really good. So I'm intrigued. I'm hoping you're gonna have that in your set today, and you are an academic as well. So kind of, yeah. Well, hey, we can all claim academia. We need to reclaim it. So absolutely. And the bit I liked the best was the fact that you are irreverent and go against the rules. As a seasoned maverick. Shani will attest to. I don't think I've ever followed any rule in my entire life, and I certainly don't intend on starting now. So it's true. Yeah, there you go. So I'm looking forward to hearing some irreverent poetry from Aaron. So please take it away.
Hello, hello. I am Aaron. I am a third generation half Indian immigrant. I have actually never been to India. My grandparents emigrated over here when they were 19. My father has lived some years in India and has promised to take me on multiple occasions, but has never had the time, which is totally fair enough. He works exceptionally hard. So I can't blame him for that, although I definitely do feel a disconnect because of that fact. But I'll say not much more on the topic. I think it's somewhat of a broken record to hear that many of us mixed race folk feel a disconnect to one or both of the places they were born. And for me, it's certainly both. I do not identify with British culture whatsoever. So the football is on today. Britain and England are playing. I wouldn't have been watching it anyway. Much to possibly some people's dismay in this. Academia, I am studying my master's in English literature. I do plan eventually to go into academia, though I have realised doing my master's that it's a lot of work, and I like poetry just a little bit more. And if I have to choose one of the two, I'm gonna choose the poetry. So I'm going to start off with a poem called Self/Refuge. Now, I live in Kent. Kent is a very racist place, unfortunately. The province I live in is Thanet. We're near Dover, for anyone who doesn't know. Now, there have been a lot of people, refugees coming over on boats from France. You would not believe the response that the local community have had. The majority of the local community, and you can see it on Facebook groups, they recommend we sink the boats. And I always respond to these comments like, so you're suggesting we kill them because you sink a boat in the most busiest shipping lane in the world, I think it is, and they will. I don't want to dwell on it because it's horrible, but and they just don't seem to care. They genuinely seem to rather that these people would drown or die before they got here in a horrible manner, kids, women, everyone, than claim like 30 quid a week benefits. So this is a response to that. It's called Self/Refuge. Matching the mirror to the self, we thought it was a case of making lake into river, but really it was about constructing a whole of the self, not a whole filled, but fulfilled. Wealth as ways of seeing, not ways to deposit beastings to our enemies. Our tendency to put tenancies before tender pleas sickens me. Imagine talking about refugees as if they're not people. Imagine caring more that council tax repairs steeple of local chapel. It's cause and effectual on a spiritual level, and if I'm leveling the playing field, then I feel we need to look past ourselves, think how others feel. Because if we're being honest, complacency does kill. They ain't walking 3,000 fucking miles to meet welcome like cold steel plunging into lungs. We could have been one of them. Running from bombs and blasts, only some of them got out. And we are separate by 6 degrees on account of me standing on White Cliff and them looking up from life raft listing. How many kids is it going to take to wash ashore for us to trade embassies for empathy? I'm talking empty seas wash clean of endless bodies. I'm talking, how are we not mad that any one of those people right there? It could have been me. It could have been me. It could have been you. And if not you, then your family. I gotta question it all. When Greg from Facebook with 5 GCSEs complain of the refugees taking the jobs he needs, I think of my mate Asan, who has 3. That's not to say he does as he pleases, more he does as he pleads to be raised from minimum wage, and that's not to say his need outweighs these internet critics, but have you seen the stains on his skin, the bruised cut, burned calligraphy? And I mean this shit, literally. See, there's still a big empire conspiracy that England is the centre of the world, and when the edges crumble, believe me, that centre does not hold. It's old, tired. The myth that Britain brought peace to savagery when it fiddled with the trigger like it was in its infancy. Count to 3. In those seconds, I guarantee another family has been bombed out of a home. By us, no less. I cannot stress our government is corrupt, maniacal, and I will scream this aloud with my chest till they put me to rest. Thank you. Yo, so that's my response to what people say. As you can probably tell, I am very pro-refugee. If it were up to me, I would say anyone can live wherever they want, because borders aren't real, they've just been made up. And like, nationalism is all well and good, but when you turn it, when you kind of start to weaponize nationalism, it becomes a very dangerous thing. And you can see that both in America and in our country quite drastically. Trump did an incredibly good job of weaponizing nationalism and Americanisms, and all that. And all that is the American dream and the belief that white is superior. Like, he'll never say it out loud. It's always a like subtextual, but you only need to go to like look back on some of the summits he held, and some of the rallies he held, to see kind of the subtext, and it's pretty fucking grim, to be honest, to put it simply. So I do write a fair bit about those kind of issues, the kind of political, social issues that grasp us, but I also like to write a lot about, I like to feel out my emotions while I'm writing. So sometimes if I'm feeling like a certain way, like a certain kind of turbulence, I'm not really sure how to put it, I'll kind of sit down and write and see what comes out. So the reference in my intro to laundry is actually because I wrote a poem called Damp, which I'm going to perform next. And that bio wasn't actually written by me; it was written by a good friend of mine. So it's why I like using it, because I'm terrible at writing bios for myself, but she did a very good job of it, and it's quite funny. So, but yeah, this is a poem I wrote about 6 months ago called Damp. New house, first load of laundry. I remember thinking humbly, if I'm to bumble along, I'm happy to live and let be. Stumbling doesn't seem so bad to me, ambling on amiably. What are you aiming for? Batting for sixes and hitting fours? Sure, the quiet life isn't so bad after all. The washing, and now it's got my heart racing and burning. Though I'll admit that's a long-term side effect certain. And I can hear the water giving a soap sermon. I'm learning. There is a problem, though it has a name, though I'm not sure I can get the wording right. And I'm worried my socks will take flight when I hang them on the line. And how will I leave the house then? No sock to call a friend, and don't even get me started on my underwear. The bubbles are done preaching. Reaching into the drum, I feel the previous rumble of machinery make its way into my ears. Bailing out the clothes still sodden. I know the sun goes down too often, and this is one of those times. As if day could unclasp itself from baggage and fly, the night finds me hanging them out anyway, almost forgetting to bring them in when they're still no drier, when they almost conspire to stay wet. And I remember it because I was shirtless. And I remember it because I was wordless at the fact that I might not be able to outwash my depression. Out-rinse, out-run, out-read, out-work, because at last I was where 17-year-old me never thought I'd be. Outstripping every line of inquiry, not giving there. The devotees who conquer every sea and name themselves king of nobody. And yet despite this, I'm still lost in that same sea, singing songs of Is There Anybody? Not wet then, no, but still kinda, not quite, damp, exactly. Thank you. So yeah, that's my laundry poem. It all happens in the mind of a poet, you see. It's a great world. We do laundry and we think about it. In all fairness, I think some of the most kind of mundane chores can be some of the most terrifying, as well as the most kind of representative of us. So laundry is something that you'll do twice a week, maybe even more. I do my laundry about twice a week, and it's such a repetitive act, and it's an act you don't really think about. But yeah, we're just washing bits of skin off our clothes, dirt, mud. Like, we shouldn't really be adverse to these things, and we are. So that's a bit weird. And I try again. You start thinking about these things for too long, and suddenly, whew, jeez. So always best to kind of just, unless you want to have an existential crisis, which, as you can tell, I was having while I was writing that poem, being like, I'm going to be doing laundry for the rest of my life. I'll be washing clothes for the rest of my life. What's going to change? And nothing's going to change. And that's actually okay. You know, the second you actually face that, you're actually like, yeah, that's actually okay. So yeah, that's my 2 cents on that topic. I think I'm going to do one more full-length poem and then a very short poem to finish us off, finish my set off. So I have said I have never been to India, and I want to go, and I feel a disconnect with both my British and my Indian heritage. And yeah, again, there's not much more else for me to say to this. This is a poem I wrote fairly recently, actually, called My Father Never Speaks of India. My father never speaks of India directly. Instead, he says he prefers the warm, cranks thermostat up into a haze, speaks objectively, and never lets rage catch wings. I've imagined the songs he sings, Punjabi hymns that glitter like broken windows to the mind. Mind you, I say imagine. I rarely hear my father speak Punjabi unless it's to swear. Instead of speaking of India, we tie Rakhi round our wrists, eat keema, and visit Godva. My granddad says he'll take me, shows me sun-spoiled photos of lowland floods. When these floods pull back, Guru gifts such fertile ground of silk silt, it's rumoured you can drown. My father really doesn't speak of India. Why should he? I'm a third-generation immigrant lent into white literature. I am the tree in the riverbend that owes nothing to the floating fruit. I am an iron skillet with last night's spices still stuck to it. They say India is a place bereft of itself, and I feel that same absence in me. They don't say my mum's lineage was the boot my father's lived under, or the crown jewels are an insult to the Sikhs that died under British flag. So that orange and yellow turmoil, when I drink turmeric milk or see paprika drip from my dreams, it's like my soul is at sea being pulled along by different gravities. If I could skim away the distance, I would. India is pride, India is strength, India is grace, India is the rage between my eyes, India is every drop of blood I bleed in a foreign country, but India isn't mine. I am crepuscular, a Malafor misinformed, a father bereft of wages, a tongue out of tune, a son seen too soon, and isn't India the same? A body which has the very gods in its nerves, a milk in its joints, a cornucopia of faith, wisdom, and breath, a pilgrim who found kindness at every roadside, drunk from cups unemptying, who then gave everything up to move to England. Cool. Yeah. So as I said, I feel like it's always with these kind of conflicts, it's a much. I could speak about how I feel conflicted about my heritage and how I don't feel like I belong to either one. I feel like it's much more concise, much more perhaps showing for me to just simply do something like this. So that's a poem I have quite close to my heart for the obvious reasons. Yeah, not much more to say about that one. Take it as you will. I've got one last short poem, and I do this simply because our heritage doesn't have to be where we're from or where our parents are from. It can be the really small things. It can be the really, really small things that make us up. And I'm really kind of wanting to stress that today of all days in this format. So this is a poem. So I'm a big fan of birds. I bird watch. I love sitting in the park. I had a sparrow eat out of my hand the other day. it was a blessing. I absolutely love birds, and nature generally. So my first collection of poetry, solo collection of poetry, is publishing either earliest is going to be this autumn, latest is going to be next spring. A London-based publisher, Selcourse Press, or Selcourse Station Press, is publishing it. So that's really cool. And this is one of my favourite poems from a collection. It is called Grief is the Thing with Feathers, which is both an Emily Dickinson reference and a Max Porter reference for people who know who those people are. On the contrary, Grief is Featherless by Pedal. It can be found with a cigarette chain smoking in the garden or folded like a deck chair leant up against the wall. It is nothing if not persistent, persisting in the transience between thoughts or stuck like sweat on thighs that remembers glances of stars in eyes. It is best not to approach grief. Books and books attributes all understood colour to itself, gives grass and bird and beach and bay to the ice shrines it builds. It is magnanimous, but only to its own animus, that's to say it's self-sustaining. It has stood on two legs and forgot how to run. It has let icicles grow upwards into the base of its feet. It is spent and exhausted under a springtime sun. On the contrary, I'm talking about me. Thank you. So that concludes my set for today. Thank you, Shabnam. I really hope I pronounced that well. And thank you, Trey, for hosting and organising in that order, respectively. It's a pleasure to come into a format like this that kind of is a South Asian. This is the first time I've been to an event that has just been South Asian poets, which is really, really sick. I definitely do not see enough or meet enough South Asian poets when I perform, and it's just amazing that we've kind of all come together and come out for this, and I've loved it so far, and I'm certain I'm going to love it from the rest of it. Thank you for having me. I will put my details in the chat. You can pretty much only find me on Instagram at Shamanic, which is on my it's next to my name, but I'll plug it into the chat as well. I don't really like social media. I'm not really on it much, but I keep up appearances as much as I have to. And yeah, thanks for loving the chat. Take care, guys, and
thank you. Thanks a lot, Aaron. That was great. No doubt you'd have made a friend in Shani there, going on about birds, and Emily Dickinson. One of the things that really, again, kind of struck me when you're talking about, heritage and how it isn't necessarily about where your parents are from, where you're from, where you're born. It is much, much deeper. And this is something, so I lecture at Leeds Beckett University. I lecture on the teacher education programs, and I teach race and inclusion. And the thing that I say to my students is that if teachers had noticed, had paid any attention to the deep culture that existed in my family, that wasn't a stereotypical this of, whatever, of how we were Muslims, or how did we celebrate Ramadan, or that, my mum wore a sari, actually she didn't. All of these things, that you look underneath that surface, and that, just because we were a British Bangladeshi family didn't mean that the next British Bangladeshi family were going to be the same. And it's so important that, kids, that we see that in kids, that what they're about is in them, and it comes from their home, and that home can be anything. It doesn't have to be just in the house, in the bricks that surround them. Kind of another nod to Shani's poem about foundations, it's in them, and I think it's great. And it is amazing to see all the, South Asian poets together like this, kind of, you guys are all young, rather than the kind of, again, the stereotypical kind of thing of, if you said, oh, South Asian poetry, people would expect something, and this is clearly not that. So I do hope that, because obviously we're recording it, that it gets out there and other people see it. So please spread it on your social media, whether you are on just one bit of social media or lots of social media. So next up on tonight, we have got Jamila. Jamila, you are here to spread some love, I'm told. A fighter for social justice, though you are already in my heart, and a intersectional communist fighting white men's voices like we need more and more and more of that. I like that.
Thank you very much. Yeah, it sounds a lot worse when you say it out loud. Now that you're recording it, it's like maybe I shouldn't have said that, but I'm glad I did.
No, but, I think we've got to say it how it is. Yeah. You know, this is the really important stuff.
I'm trying to be as literal as possible.
Yeah, we don't need to couch it in language that, you know, can be misinterpreted. It's got to be what it is, you know, that absolutely it. So I love that about you. So you're studying at SOAS currently. You're only 18. Just making me feel so old. So I'm really looking forward to hearing what you've got to offer today, Jamila. Please fill everybody in if there's things that I've missed that you want to, you know, that you want to say. We look forward to your set.
Thank you. So like Shabnam said, I'm Jamila. I'm actually 19 now. My birthday was the other day. I am a communist, an intersectional feminist, everything on the left, basically, just a bit far on the left. You know, maybe don't mention that to my mum. She probably wouldn't be happy with that. I am actually not a poet. I've never written poetry in my life. I didn't even study English beyond GCSE. So this is my first time ever writing something. It's kind of a story, kind of a poetry, kind of rhyme, kind of, you know, everyone's a poet. Yeah, you're right. It's this, I don't know who mentioned it before, but once you start deeping everything, you're like, you can't stop. You keep going and you realize there's so much more to everything. Like I'm looking at my water bottle now and I'm thinking, is there more to that water bottle than I know? Is there something different? I'm seeing things a lot differently, and everyone's poetry is amazing. There's just so much to learn from, you know, things that we'd never expect. But yeah, my poems kind of like continuous prose, just storytelling / poetry, and I hope you enjoy it. I'd call it I Exist, and it's taken me quite a while to write. I hope you enjoy. My mum's had enough. We have to leave. We ran to the car, stuffed our lives inside, and drove back to hers. This is the life she left for that Celeste love affair. The already married Muslim father of 2, but lies and I can have more than one wife fairy tale arise, and the pride of being the breadwinner turned their dream into our nightmare. We arrived. Northamptonshire's dead. Where's the big house? My cousins, family, siblings, and friends. Apparently Welly is now what I'll be calling ends, and my accent's changing. So is our lives. My Indian family hates us. We lived in a cramped house, too many voices cramming our little minds, where me and my twin just want to watch TV and fill our eyes. What's that statue in the corner? We're Muslim, she says, but I was Hindu like them. That explains the secret fasting, the Arabic lessons at mosque not lasting, the battered books she read while chanting, the culture clash, our lives contrasting. We arrived, finally found a place to live, but my mother skipping meals. From a model minority, perfectly respected Indian saleswoman to an unemployed single mother of 3, the part-time teaching assistant seems like a single day after a 16-hour fast. While she works too many hours and frails, we make new friends, yet these ain't stale, old life's looking like UK politics pale. From pirouettes and detail to lost etiquettes and derail, a white rich life to a council house to play in Kirby, we eat our Rotley shack with a smile. Yet there's still more culture than us. The mold on the walls and the freezing cold conditions don't bother us. I like chilling with fun guys. My relationship with my dad is dying, so he doesn't care. The girls in PE keep preying my leg hair, and that razor blade is looking more appealing for multiple reasons. Secondary school was like I'm doing the washing, because why am I seeing separated colours? Feels like South Africa oppression the way we're shoved out like others. It's mad. One time I got invited to a motive with whites over the summers. Those gory girls grilled me. I had to go chill with their brothers. She shouldn't be here. What little fuckers? That's why I always separate my whites, because I hate to see when colours are bleeding. It seems to me all us colours are feeling it, from the same gory girls threatening to get the police involved over minor violations. Seems like discrimination when we're getting attacked for being packies and N-words and can't you speak English? Or it's the white boys, concerned with my eyebrows. Seriously, I deserve reparations. Fuck, my sister was right. Maybe I am spending too much time in the sun. You better rub your skin if you're getting into my wedding pics. She spits, my dad reaffirms. Why is your mum letting you go chala? Maybe it's your chala friends who are rubbing off on you. So I rub, and I scrub, and I yogurt holding my face until I'm fair and lovely. Maybe these white boys will think I'm lovely. Maybe my tears will fill their ears. Maybe my family will take my struggle and lost identity seriously. I can't speak either of my native tongues, yet each culture crashes down on me that I can't crawl and claim that British better life. I've grown up with the Tories. From Cameron to May, they did nothing for us. But it was those Tories that let my family carry on their stories. In from Uganda, fleeing from Amin. So does that mean I'm indebted to them? I think the fuck not, but they don't. They're colonizer pleasers. First-gen immigrants giving brain to their ministers, voting Tory unaware their actions are so sinister. Their own sister struggling, but they're rocking Tommy Hilfiger, ready to disown their own niece for being a hijabi. But how will you use conditioner? The ignorance. So I can't find my safe haven in religion. My dad's texts are slow, delivering by pigeon. I'm the mutti kairi, so I must make a decision, end the struggle or find love in this wild position. So I'm selling ties at school, supporting my mum after revision, banging gym, getting guys, A-levels is my new addition. But I'm still lost in my identity and I feel so ungrateful. My mum's who's really struggled, her path was the one that's paying for. Racial attacks, drowned, battered, it was so hateful, yet I complain over slurs and microaggressions. Damn, that's disgraceful and wasteful. Or a waste man? Sometimes I think so. I allowed myself to go hard for other races but my own. I don't want to bitch about my struggle. I'm so alone. Guji and Bengali, now a lighty, half Muzzy, I complain through my phone. But loud IRL, that's something I'll disown. I just don't want to complain with people chatting on my name. I want to start a campaign and inject it straight into their veins, especially to that girl's dad. I just don't want to refrain. But I'm loud, opinionated, crazy. Is she on crack cocaine? Your house must smell like curry. Why are you mad? This girl's insane. Yet you call us terrorists, pedos, and wanted me to die, and I'm insane. Let me explain. If you're putting bacon on my door to keep me out, it's a hate crime. You whisper boom in my ear and listen, it's a straight line. For you in the door, because I don't have to take this anymore. That goes for you and that nurse on that night on the shop floor. You don't belong here. And you do anymore? I was born here. Or maybe it's me being called a packy on the tills, crying to my manager and her white ass replied, I've been called ugly too. You will never understand. I'm trying hard to preserve something I never had. I'm always going to be another packy, but I'm kind of glad. That's my people. I'm not ashamed of my curry stains or go about Eid, their family members up in picture frames, squished car rides, bindies, or my dad always switching lanes, my mum giving nasty to my mates. I see it all as gains. But that wasn't always. I have been ashamed. Tesco car park, 11 a.m. It's hot. My mum's asked me to leave the car. I said, no way, I'm not. I need to cover my arms. Everyone thinking it's the Muzi within me, but little did they know it was about my pits, dark and dirty. My mum never understood my struggle, but this I'll never forget. She walked with her arms held high. She walked with her arms held high and said, look at everyone, this is normal. I was screaming, crying, telling her to stop. This embarrassment tops the lot. I resented her so much for putting me under pressure, but little did I know she was doing it for the better. But she still thinks I can scrub it off. I was India girl for Bengalis, and then terrorist to Gujaratis, too cultured for white, not black enough for the parties. The whites hated everything else but fetishized all my saris, couldn't get the representation for my hyperpigmentation. Just look at the Barbies. I want to be that caramel frappe that makeup brands me as. Everyone likes that bittersweet ice drink. But when controversy leaves my lips, suddenly those gories sip and stick to their flat white. Maybe they can't handle the flavor. Maybe they only like me on paper. Maybe it's the fact that always see me as a traitor. I'm brown, exotic, but not exotic enough. See, I'm not British, but I am. I don't claim the flag, but I can, but I can't, and I won't. Even that poppy represents my people being shoved to the back of the queue, but I guess we're used to being at both sides of the till, or only being useful when your nan gets ill, or only being a laughing stock for your insecurities to fulfill. See, my desire to be desirable put me in positions I can never forgive or forget. The unnecessary lies and baking of pies to appear to the masses like I owe them something. My mere existence relies on you. I'm more than that, but I'm not. My body's a joystick and I'm just being used for your sick fantasy football game. I've been a player. But my intersectional act crumbles at the sight of fake compassion, and I make a fantasy of my own. But this nightmare wasn't a figment of my imagination. You see, sex outside marriage is forbidden in my culture. So when I said no to him, he became a sort of vulture. You'll enjoy it, babe. I thought you loved me. Fuck out my house. 4 a.m., he said. This is done. 4 a.m. white man's house. Now I'd rather sit through this till it's done. See, I can't tell my mum. The pain and anger pin me down more than my fingers. I can't remember the last time I kissed without this feeling that lingers. To think I joke about being a white man whore to this day. But I'm dealing with it, through it. I have to have something to say, you know, get shit off my plate. This stuff don't define my fate. My ancestors know that I've done this to myself, and I'm sorry that I strayed away. I'm sorry I was that whore wearing a skirt in the sun. I'm sorry I wasn't studying but manipulated by someone's son. I'm sorry I didn't love asking our food or all the work you had done. I'm sorry I let these colonizers colonize my life from young. I'm sorry I didn't love my life, but loved theirs for mine. I'm sorry I've been insecure and weak probably since the dawn of time. I'm sorry for what the Brits did to you to create so much hatred and divide. Muslims v Hindus, when will we let the flood of blood and anger already subside? I will fight for our freedom, and I will always let my daughter know. Don't let them silence you. You don't always have to let go. You better love yourself, and that's how our people will continue to stay free. And if they say brown women are silenced, then you can show them me. We don't give in. We're not weak, and we certainly will resist. And if they say oppression never ends, then you can remind them that I exist. Thank you.
That's fucking amazing. Absolutely blown me away. That is just, you got me. I swear I am about to cry. I really am. That was just phenomenal. Absolutely amazing. Every fucking word was just brilliant. I apologize if children are watching, but yeah, that was brilliant. Trey is absolutely right. You are a poet. You are a poet, my girl. My goodness. My goodness. Woo! I don't know what to say anymore after that. That's phenomenal. Really brilliant. Thank you so much, Jamila. That was just great. I loved it. Absolutely loved it. You know, this is what this is about tonight. It's about different voices, you know, us kind of different experiences, different sort of all those different flavors of poetry, and it's brilliant, absolutely brilliant. Thank you so much, and I you know, yeah, keep writing, just keep writing. Okay, well, we are at 6 o'clock, so I'm wondering if, Trey, do you think we should have a break now, or should we do one more and then a break? What do you reckon?
I think we can break now because I think we've done half of the acts.
Yeah, we're on. If Rafi was number 5, so it's up to you whether you want to do Rafi and then break, or break and kind of. It seems like 6 o'clock's a good time to break. I think we've done an hour, haven't we? Yeah, might be good. Yeah, give everybody nice, good break time. Well, thank you to all of our everybody who's read so far. Really looking forward to the next set of poets and writers and speakers representing South Asia tonight. It's been awesome so far. Again, a massive thank you to Trey for pulling everybody together. It's great. So if we have what 5-10 minutes, Trey, what are you gonna?
Let's go 10, I think.
10 minutes. Okay.
Yeah.
So we have sort of 10-minute comfort break, and we'll get back in here at 6:10. Thank you, everybody. As well. Oh yeah. Okay. Back on. So thank you for everybody returning for the second half of this amazing Can You Poet South Asian style. First up in our second set is Rafi. You were there a minute ago and I've lost you on my screen. There you are. Whoa. So Rafi, I understand you have created this mythopoeic. See, I'm like learning all these new words today. Universe. So you've kind of, got this, and you're writing a book, or a set of books. Book one, I think, yeah. Based in this, so Epidre is the realm, and you're kind of mixing mythology, science, sort of psychology, all kinds of stuff in your writing. So it's going to be interesting to listen to your set and see what comes from there. So I'm going to hand over to you. You can fill everybody in if there's some other stuff that you want to let everyone know about. And of course, for everybody, if you can, just in the chat, if you can put your your Twitter handles or your Instagram account, whatever, so that people can follow you, that would be great. So without further ado, Rafi.
Thank you for having me. I'm really excited for this. As someone else said, it's really rare to see a fully South Asian poetry night. Like, I'm from India, so I'm from South India, Hyderabad, and I just moved to Canada like 3 years ago. So back home, I was very used to kind of being in poetry circles that were all Indian, so to speak. I had the privilege of knowing a lot of amazing poets in India, poets and underground rappers. But this is new. Ever since I moved to Canada, I haven't really been in a poetry space that kind of harks back to my lineage in a way. I wrote a bunch of poems for this event, like a couple of poems, and I have like 2 or 3 poems that I've written before, all kind of deal with the themes of immigration, identity, refugees, and kind of analyzing Discord itself. Like, I've always felt like a cultural nomad, so to speak. I am from India, but like my mom is from Pakistan, but my parents are cousins, and my family originates from Uzbekistan. So it's and my family's ancestry was primarily rooted in being nomads, like actual literal nomads, for several centuries until the 20th. They just kept traveling all across the subcontinent, Central Asia, parts of Middle East, and then settled back in India again. So, and in my community, it's a very small Sufi mystic community. We are not supposed to settle down in one place. We're supposed to be nomads, and we're not supposed to align with any national identity, kingdom, or anything. And even like when it comes to economics, our our base idea is to basically
We've lost your sound there, Rafi. I don't know if you can hear me. Maybe you're, yeah. I don't know whether your mic got switched off.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, we can hear you now. Yep. Thanks.
So as I was saying, there's never been like these kind of ideals of like nationality or even materialism in my kind of community, so to speak. So I grew up to be like pretty much a socialist in many ways, even though I didn't know the term for several years. And I always felt like a cultural nomad. A lot of my relatives are from all over the place. I have Ukrainian cousins, I have cousins from Middle East, I have some cousins from Europe, I have some Mexican cousins, some from North Africa. I don't know. So I tried to kind of like encapsulate that in these poems, not to go on about it. So the first poem, which I wrote this morning, is called East or West, because I hear this thing in India a lot. East or West, India is the best. Like that's like a silly saying that we have, but so I wrote something off of it. East or West, which one is the best? I question this question as an immigrant, and you wouldn't like the answers I tell myself. This notion of versus I wholly detest. Since the time of ancient conquest, a battle has been waged to attest dominance between the East and the West, for religion, for glory, for vengeance, for the dead. There is a permanence that permeates this contest, this unending expectation to emerge victorious. Cultures, ideals, economies, and faith are used as bait to draw each other into a perennial debate. There are prophecies of destiny and fate used to satiate the irate and all those who insinuate that the other is deserving of hate. Now let me break away from this order and be honest with this disorder. As a cultural nomad, I still do not know where I belong, and I feel comfortable to not join the throng. I do not feel the need to sing any songs that lie to glorify all that is wrong. A child of India and Pakistan, I was raised to look beyond the conflicts that keeps going on. I'm tired of all the taunts in the past that continues to haunt. Why is it so easy to believe that we are special ones? Why is it so easy to believe that we are the chosen ones? That we are meant to have everything under the sun? Why make people like me run away from my own culture? I ran away from all the discord to find a semblance of peace, knowing that in this country across the Atlantic, there is a chance at least. But the beast of greed breeds here unrestrained, and only those who are still enslaved to denial sing its praise. The truth is, there is no justice anywhere. East or west, nobody truly cares. Left or right, no one dares to question how we ended up in this abysmal state. So in the end, those who know better exploit our gullibility, banking on our ability to resort to this bipolarity, keeping us away from clarity, dividing and conquering us with apathy. This reality is too overwhelming to put to prose or even attempt to compose, but I'm tired of being torn. I'm not defined by the place I live in or the place where I was born. I foolishly hope we can all get along, learning from all that we have lost to this farce. Where do I stand in a world ever changing, the sand beneath my feet ever shifting? Why do you demand I hold a resolute sense of identity? Why do you want to reduce myself to a nationality? But in reality, where we are from is beyond the brands we swear fealty to. But in actuality, we are a mix of red and blue. We are all immigrants, we are all nomads, yet our cultures are always positioned from the lens of good and bad. Colonialism and imperialism have been tools to feed the gluttonous ghouls who rule and impress the fools. I'm tired of all this noise. I'm tired of all these fights. I'm tired of the conflict that denies us the right to inhabit this earth the way we would like. Yeah, okay, it ended there. And the second poem is something I wrote during this break. It's called Privilege. It's a very short one. Privilege is being afraid of what we have to say. Privilege is showing disdain towards our ways. Privilege is trapping us in a maze where bureaucracy sans empathy dictates our days. Privilege is ignoring the trauma that we carry. Privilege is forcing us to marry the fiction made real of a civilized society that through politeness suppresses our helpless base. Privilege is preaching mental wellness while stigmatizing mental illness. Privilege is signaling virtue in an abysmal performance. Privilege is having the right to protest without fear of repercussion. Privilege is invalidating our oppression in the guise of casual discussion. Privilege is proclaiming all pain is equal. Privilege is believing that there won't be a sequel to the horrors that we have endured for the entertainment of those who treat us no more than a petty intrigue. Thank you, thank you. So yeah, those were the poems I just wrote. I have a couple more.
Sure, yeah, but by all means, Rafi, you're okay. You're good for a couple more, yeah.
All right. This one's called War. It's actually a poem. It's actually a song from the 10th chapter of my book that I'm going to publish this fall, hopefully. So it goes like this. War turns your world upside down. Your home is lost and never be found. The faces you saw smiling around, burned in a pit or rot in a mound. War, the familiar sounds of love and laughter, bleed into wails of loss and horror. The ligaments of memories rupture in your eyes. Echoes fill your mind with distraught cries. War, the lies of your king take lives of your kin. You ask yourself if this is a bane of your sin, but dim is hope as answers elope, leave you with questions to grope. War, the prayer rings in your ears as you turn into an empty shell for ears. You flee to the seas to seek new countries, only to be seen as disease-bearing refugees. War, no different than the trees that are burned with weak care, the discarded, food, cursed and left bare, defend and fare in a wellness falsely promised, chasing the better days you see in a fever stress. War, as the bridges you cross leave you charred, by the walls are you unjustly barred, smothered by the label of the other, to seek the comfort of your mother. War, but all you receive is scorn or pity, stuck in a purgatory between empathy and apathy. The cities of tomorrow deem you the past, like pest-ridden clothes, your pain they discard. War, while the feasting few glare at you, and with wanton plunder they continue to mine your lands as if you are fire that fuels the desires so relentlessly cruel.
Thank you, Rafi. Thank you very much. I'm not sure if I lost you or everybody else did. But I didn't get that last bit. Sorry, of your poem. I'm not sure, Trey. Did we get that, or I can't see Trey now. I'm just trying to check that we're still okay.
Hello. Yeah, I think I got
Hi, did
Rafi.
you? Brilliant. Oh, that's right. It was just maybe it was my internet then. Good,
Right.
good.
Yeah, I've been kind of having internet issues today as well. So
yeah, not to worry, not to worry. So you got one more for us, Rafi, yes?
Yeah, just a couple more actually.
Okay.
Not too long, but yeah. This one's called Empathy. Who are we today? What is our thought beyond the fray? We are in the heart of animosity, in a flux of reshaping our reality. Questions of identity plague our society, and the fabric of mythology is lost to our sensibility. We drink wealth and vomit poverty. Our sympathy is suppressed by a horde of apathy. We are the victims of a fallacy, sticking to a single story. Its dangerous divide devices devious disparity. To ourselves we promise no honesty. To kindness we swear no fealty. We are burdened by the sins of this travesty, ignoring the bountiful majesty of all that is common between you and me. The very synchronicity, the legacy we leave for the posterity. If only we see that everything is part of a divine symphony, we would find universal symmetry. We would find the difference to be lesser than the similarity. We must move towards a unified affinity, to fear ignorance as our greatest enemy and explore knowledge beyond any boundary. Oh, to read psychology and sociology and understand the within and the without entirely, or to read comparatively religion, mythology, and history and recognize the seeds of our commonality, or to read biology, zoology, and geography and understand the need for a sustained ecology and find patterns of hostility harnessing the benevolence of technology. Painting with love a surreality, expressing emotions through poetry, and realize we are the result of the cycle evolutionary, to observe the primal origins of a tribality and how we can embrace all diversity and rise beyond the toxicity that stifles our creativity. Who are we, parts of a whole on a small planet in a galaxy that sings silently a universal harmony beyond the incongruity and the cacophony where all existence relies on empathy and unspoken language of the land and the sea, the bird and the tree, of events quantum and of magnality beyond them, you and me. There is a possibility that is dismissed as a fantasy where I am no more a decree, where we are us and us is all there needs to be, usurping the atrocity, the brutality, the insecurity beyond hatred. We can be beyond suffering. We can be a collective entity made by empathy, for empathy, of empathy, in global unity, redefining humanity. Thank you. So I have just one left. It's called Beyond the Crescent Moon. Beyond the crescent moon, I float towards the divine light. My eyes pierce through the haze of doom. My skin sheds the scars of fright. No more do I run from the embrace. The fight is over and I have won. I have escaped the godly gaze. All answers appear before the sun. Fire kiss, I am passion bound to sculpt creation in my likeness. In the emptiness, my laughter I sound. Promises whisper in the darkness. A flood of hope engulfs my world. The iron wall leaves no taste on my tongue. I find closure in the world. Freedom dances in my lungs. I heed the commandment to pursue the impossible. From the tree in the mountain that sings of tomorrow, rummaging, I find purpose in the rubble, to forego the crushing weight of past egos. The shackles of blood freeze and break as strangers shoulder my grief. The only hate that remains is for hate. I have found salvation in self-belief. The waters of heaven wash over my fears. The silence of nothingness sings a lullaby. I find divinity in the shimmer of my tears. Only to the cosmos do I now cry. For the why has answered the perfection and deemed it a farce. The solution is revealed to me in the confusion. Home makes a friend in the hearse. Infinity draws a charter with the finite. I find kinship in the flight of birds. A balm of acceptance heals the bite. I away from the oasis into the desert, lighting a torch in the unknowns of the night, far from the herd of the dread and the curse, lifting the veil of wrong and right, to find an ocean beyond the edge of the universe. Dogma is dead and reborn is my light. From the clutches of the crescent moon, far from the crescent moon, beyond the crescent moon. Thank you, thank you.
Thank you very, very much, Rafi. Really interesting there, that set. I mean, you know, you've done some off the cuff, you've just written. I mean, in the break, you wrote one of them, for goodness sake. So, you know, your kind of talent for writing there sort of definitely shows through. I like how kind of knowing that you are an author, you know, of narrative and clearly kind of describe, I mean, you know, I don't know, your book is yet to be published, but I can imagine that it's going to be full of this kind of, you know, this ethereal kind of description from the way the words were going together in your poetry just there is kind of quite mesmerizing. You know, I kind of felt like I was out there in the cosmos. It was really quite something. And it also, your you know, the story about your family's heritage and the fact that, you know, that they were nomadic people and that they ended up back in India, you know, I think that really struck me, because this idea of us being of us challenging racial stereotypes, challenging, you know, the negativity that comes with othering races, that is all a construct. It's not, you know, we are one human race, that's it. And I think, you know, this idea of us hanging on to identities that are constructed and keep us bound, you know, I love the idea of us being free. And like you said, you know, free to inhabit the earth. I mean, that's, you know, everybody. Going back to Aaron's stuff about refugees and you know, the disdain that people have had for people trying to come to a space, a safe space, because they're being forced out. You know, they're not choosing to be nomadic. That's a different thing altogether. I could sense it through your poetry. So thank you very, very much. That was wonderful. Lovely to kind of listen to you. I think Trey said something about he's got a copy of your book. Copy of your book's first edition. That would be absolutely amazing, actually. Yeah. And we look forward to it being published. You know, do keep in touch with us and let us know so that we can.
Absolutely. I will share my website in the comments.
Yeah, please do.
I'm currently off all social media so that I can finish edits on my book. So all I can say about the book is that it's written almost entirely in alliterative rhyming prose.
Right.
It's about 250,000 words, and it's almost entirely in alliteration.
Wow. Hey, yeah, English teachers there. Well, thanks again, Rafi, for your set. Please enjoy the rest of the evening. Okay, so our next up is it is Subika, who I can't see. I'm sure you're there. There you are.
Hello.
Hi, nice to meet you.
Nice
so you are an actor and a playwright. So
I am, yeah.
So we're looking forward to something slightly different from you. It'd be kind of, you know, interesting. I think you've written a lot of stuff that's been taken on by different theatres. So quite prolific. From what I read in your bio, you seem to, you know, have a lot to kind of put out there. Do you want to sort of tell us a little bit more about that and kind of where that has, you know, where does it stem from? Where is your creativity? Where does it come? Where do you find it? And then please carry on with what you would like to present for us tonight.
Okay, yeah, sure. Hello, everyone. Everyone's sets have been absolutely amazing so far. I just wanted to say that, and thanks to Trey and yourself, Shabnam, for putting this all together. It's a fantastic platform. So yeah, I'm an actor and a playwright, kind of trying to break into TV and film as well, but it's incredibly difficult. I mean, the theatre industry is really hard itself anyway. I have written a couple of poems a long time ago, but one of them is actually based on a play that I've written. But yeah, I guess like my creativity comes from just things that I've kind of experienced personally as a South Asian person. And also I was really encouraged to write creatively by my English teacher when I was at school, which was a long, long time ago, guys. I know I don't like it, but it was a long time ago. So yeah, I just kind of continued on that journey, and then just found that the writing journey, there was a significant gap in between getting commissions. So I was like, what can I do in between this time? So I just started to go down the acting route, and then I got asked to kind of take part in a lot of auditions and things, and then just kind of like fell into it to an extent, and then started to write things for myself, wrote a solo show for myself to perform as well. And some of the things that I'm performing tonight, they are monologues, and they're things that I think I would like to perform, but they're not necessarily for me. They're for everyone, and they're from plays that I'm developing and plays that I have written. So first of all, I guess I wanted to start with a piece that just really puts this person on the map, I guess. It's based on a real life person called Sophia Dalip Singh. I'm sure a lot of people have heard about her, and if not, then Sophia existed within the aristocracy within the 1800s because her father was Maharaja Dalip Singh. He was brought over by India, convinced to sign over the entirety of India to the British Empire, and then, you know, was really excited about the fact that he was going to meet the Queen. And then so he went over, came over to England, and then they were like, oh, well, you know, you can't go back. And then he was just like, what? Okay. So there was all this kind of manipulation, and he ended up getting married and having children. Sophia was one of his daughters, one of three daughters, and she was a significant part of the suffragette movement as well. So I've written a play about her, which was on at the Vault Festival which is in Waterloo. That was back in 2016 though. And then I just really wanted to like highlight that, you know, we have significant and really important women that are part of our aristocracy in Britain, even though she didn't really want to be a part of it, but she kind of did. And this poem is about when she journeyed to India for the first time. So I think it took 3 to 4 months for her to get across on a boat to India to go and visit her sister, and Bamba, who actually ended up living in India for the rest of her life. Okay, so this is called My Feet Touch the Earth. Of a foreign land now lost, to a new intruder whose mark is seen in shadows. Lungs breathe in dry heat, lips taste grit, hands clench the handle of a forgotten past. Weeks, months on water I rocked, longing for still grounds, but India moves not on her own terms. I see her colour, piercing through repression in vibrant, kind welcomes and unforced smiles. Her burnt orange reds and hues of sun rays open my vision like a lens removed. Maharani Sophia, is taraf. I'm directed as his hands take my burden with importance. My eyes dart crowds of darkened skin reflecting our difference and struggle. And I whisper, India awake, free yourselves. So that was a really short poem. I've also got that. So the next piece, I thought I would kind of like mix it up. I guess it's quite weird actually doing like a poem and then like a monologue, because you have to like switch. But anyway, so this is a piece that I wrote from a play that I'm actually developing, and it's about like relationships like in your 20s, and it's from the perspective of the girl. So I'll just read it. It doesn't have a name or anything. It's not that I don't love you anymore. I always will. Not everything is about love. Everything we've had in common was because of who we were back then. The same films, same music, same banter, same pubs. It's solid, but there's something missing. We've grown up in completely different cultures, and I've hidden that side of me. I know I've hidden us from my parents, but that's part of it, because the other side of me I've hidden from you. It's confusing me. So I don't blame you for not knowing what to do or for trying your best. Look, I love laughing too loud and talking too loud with my family, being too soppy and romantic or getting too dressed up for yet another wedding or for Eid, even when we don't have that many guests. Just, you know, to sit in the living room. Some would call it oppressive or whatever, but I love it. It's not like I want to be with someone from Pakistan either, because they wouldn't get this side of me when I'm with you. I need both. And it just feels like someone who's British and Asian would get it. They'd hide it all with me. I want British Pakistani children one day. I don't want them to be as confused as me. So that was that piece, and it's just about relationships and when you really love someone but you can't be with them. The next piece is called, this piece is about going to the halal butchers. I just wanted to kind of like create something. It's from like when I was doing a poetry course, and it's like really, we were like studying like really small details, and we were like studying, like the theme of the term was about objects and like senses. So I really wanted to kind of bring that cultural significance to the table essentially. So, and I thought this piece would kind of mix up my set, I guess. It's called Imran Asan. Like the head of a gavel on a block, his knife cuts through flesh and bone. In one, a leg is free. I gaze, televised, through a window. The separation with naive eyes, and every time threads of skin latch on only to the board like claw marks. A queue drools into the shop aisle. Everyone meandering to his business, kept at the back, as if these bloodied parcels were a crime. I now journey here alone, where a smirk stretches across our eyes. The sound of the whirling line distracts our glare and turns into a glance. Gosht, he instructs me, when he hands me lamb draped in paper, inside striped blue plastic like the Patriot, of which we don't belong. Our knuckles knock at the limp handle, which I carry on my shoulders home. So that was another really short poem that I wrote. And then I thought I'd finally end on something that I'm developing with, I think it's Methuen, which is a publisher. So this is going to get published in an anthology of monologues for actors to just pick up, and they can do in auditions and things. And I was just really fed up of all of the men being gangsters on TV and getting all like the great parts. So I just decided to write something that I thought was perhaps some for someone that was slightly older, but also for like a bit of a badass as well. That was like really important to kind of like represent. So yeah, I suppose I'm not really, especially because this is getting recorded as well, I suppose I shouldn't really be reading this out, but I'm going to do it anyway. Okay, so this is called Remet. Come in, take a seat. Nice to finally meet you. So you've been with us a few months now. You did a great job with the legal documents for the Hussein application, and you've been managing our accounts. You've gone above and beyond your role. So I just wanted to finally meet this superwoman and say thank you. We've got a lot of different languages in the firm here. Must be an adjustment for you, no? It was for my dad when he first came to this country. He taught me the land of hope and glory. He thought it might be useful to me. It wasn't. Things have changed, as you can see. An important anthem for Britain, but not the national anthem. You saved that one for the Queen, in case you were wondering. You don't seem patriotic. By freedom gained, by truth maintained, thine empire shall be strong. He wanted to learn as much as possible when he started practicing to understand the patriotism here. Though, of course, most of his clients weren't British. And whatever he did learn became useful for who he was up against. Very territorial, the British, and they want to keep everything they've taken. They think it was there for the taking. In fact, they like to pass it off as their own and then ridicule those they stole it from, make them believe they have no understanding of living with decorum. My dad saw a problem when he came to this country and wanted to do something about it. So did my mum. She was a teacher when he brought her over, but they had very different ideas of how to go about it. They never could quite fulfill their desires to help those in need. So when I expressed the same concerns, they helped me set up this firm when I qualified. My dad has an idea of what we do here, unlike Mum, but they don't quite understand, and sometimes we have to make sacrifices for the greater good, the community, just like the British have done. I too am British. When I was a child, we used to go strawberry picking, just in the neighbouring field over there, beautiful land. And I'd tell them I secretly wanted to be a farmer, not a lawyer like Daddy. So we could walk through the fields every day like this because I'd maintain and protect it. Bugly, he'd say. My mum was a soft one. She taught me the way of grace and necessity of forgiveness, or it will burn you for the rest of your life. But when someone takes something from you, you become merciless. So imagine what happens to a person, a society, when you take everything away from them. It becomes a war. So I'm battling with 300 years of history. I'm battling a mindset. I'm not just bringing people, anyone who can afford to, into this country. I'm selective. I have connections to established, prestigious organisations so they can work when they arrive, do meaningful work, not just labour, work that will develop and protect this country. It's taken us decades to find the right drivers, cover checkpoints, arrange lorries and boats. We don't just put hundreds of paying strangers on a flight with fake documents and tell them to seek asylum when they arrive. To save an entire country requires process, procedure, order, time. You didn't have to do this. You're an intelligent woman, educated, come from a good family, and you have your wits about you. I like that. You're practically the same. But what your parents failed to tell you is that there are two Britons, and you and I don't live in the same one. But yet, we both ended up doing dirt. You were just misunderstood when you stole from me, when you decided to hack our system after you deposited the cash. Maybe you thought we wouldn't find out. You were very good. Who did you transfer it to? Did someone threaten you? Or are you working for them? I'm not here to fight. It's not how us women do things. But I'm also not about to lose this war. I won't let anything be taken from me. People I trust, respect I've earned, or something as little as money. So you have just one of two options. You're either going to help me win this war, or I'm going to put you in the ground. You hear me? Good. The end. Cool. Thank you, everyone, for giving us that platform.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It was again, it's kind of like, you know, the fact that we've had so many different genres. It's great. It's great to just hear that monologue, you know, and it's kind of starting to feel like I can sat in the theatre and like, yeah, okay, you know, you can imagine somebody reading that out. And
yeah, it's my pleasure.
It's good to see that, you know, South Asian talent kind of goes across across all those genres. It's been great. But thank you very much for sharing that with us and sharing your voice and the things that, you know, like you say, that have come from your sort of experience, and your experience of your heritage and so on. So thank you once again. If you stick around, we've got a few more readers, speakers for everybody to enjoy. But thank you, Subika.
Thank you. Thanks.
So our next guest is Haroon. So Haroon, you are a storyteller, bit of a hip hop fan, inspired by lots of different things, an advocate for mental health, for autism, which is an interest of mine, being an autistic woman with ADHD profile. I've
got ADHD as well. I must have missed that in the profile, so I've got both.
So it's always good to have somebody who's championing neurodiversity. Trey and I quite often joke about that.
Trey and I talk about it almost daily. There's always, at least half a dozen references in any given day to neurodiversity, and have been for a while.
So good to have somebody of the neurodiverse complexion among us here tonight. So are you gonna do some storytelling, some poetry? What?
I've got about 4 poems I'm going to squeeze in, of varying lengths. None of my poems are that long, just because I don't like to keep it short and snappy. Just give a little bit of background. I'm British Pakistani. So firstly, sorry for 1971. It was bad what we did. But like yourself, Shabnam, at the age of, unlike not 6, but at the age of sort of 11 or 12, my mum decided to pick me up out of school and go, right, let's go to Pakistan for a bit. So born and raised in the UK, did a stint in Pakistan in my teens. And then it was interesting because I'm born in 1981, so I grew up in Thatcher's Britain. I left while John Major was in power. And then I arrived back 1 year into Tony Blair's multicultural Britain, very, very bewildered as to why white people were even moderately nice to me, because we left on bad terms in 1993. And then obviously going through the war on terror, where it was like, okay, progress has been reversed, back to my normal place, or even worse than before. Influenced by hip hop, love poetry, love film. And the first poem is called 7-Bar Loop, because I love odd numbers and prime numbers. And I love loops because hip hop is built off of, loops of old funk records. So here's the first one right here.
Thank you.
Loop the loop, tie shoelaces, perfect bunny ears, can't afford to trip, run around the track like a needle traveling through like a needle traveling through grooves. I travel through time and space, non-linear trajectory, like shooting stars, edges frayed, pray hope don't fade. Can't promise myself a better tomorrow, because tomorrow might have been yesterday and today might be tomorrow. Speed this up. Switch from 33 RPM to 45 RPM. Suddenly, it makes sense. Music playing at the correct pitch. Write the truth. Love is an act of sacrifice. Anonymous, otherwise it's sullied. Finally, I'm released from the groove that played in a loop. My hand unfurls, presenting my heart to share with all. That's the first piece. And I will move into the second piece. I wrote this during lockdown last year. It was about trying to process a bunch of things. And then it was also coming to terms with a very, very difficult bereavement of someone dear to me who actually passed away due to COVID. He was a British hip hop artist called Ty, and it's called Tomorrow. One sec. Peer through a wormhole, blink of an eye, interstellar, arrival, formatted scripts only give a glimpse, sci-fi-like possibilities, Lifetime neglect, love left lacking. Heart yearns for a tomorrow drenched in love and acceptance. Gaslit past. Self-esteem burns at 451 Fahrenheit. Made in 1981, swaddled in kerosene-soaked rags. Flash forward. Consent is a foreign concept. Trust betrayed, innocence sullied. Mixologist blends neurodiversity. Add a dash of lime. Ice optional. Blend. Deadly cocktail. Bitter aftertaste. Flashback. Failed cricket test. Flash forward. Cricket is communion, a people forever held back, given respite through victory at Lord's. Love gestates at home. Nervously, I plan my future. Flash further forward, pull pins from grenades, walk away. A revolutionary act of self-love. More will follow. Flashback, a love of 35mm, 2-inch reels and the word. Suppressed, self-love lacking, decade-long detour. Love rediscovered. No mean feats. Breadline diets can leave your spirit gaunt-like. Present time. Love, ambition, hope. Quarantined but not secluded. Nurtured. Nursing the loss of an awkward boy who told me to look upwards. Studying his legacy, I edge closer to a brighter tomorrow. Peering into a wormhole, I can see it. My stories travel far and wide. New youths, enthralled by the tale of a godfather now departed, the cycle of intergenerational trauma finally broken. A new cycle begins, my heart finally sings. Thank you. See, I think one of the things I feel very strongly about, and it's funny because I only just watched Gurinder Chadha's documentary on partition while it was still on BBC iPlayer, and I think intergenerational trauma, I think it's a big thing for a lot of diaspora. I think it is definitely, in our own way as South Asians, it's huge. And I think we're a long way away from fully processing and unpicking the impact of partition. I don't even think we've begun to fully understand it. And so, yeah, the references to intergenerational trauma. This next piece, let me figure out which one I'm going to do. Right, the next piece is called Life on Mars, and this is something I wrote far more recently. Red light waving Mars, interstellar constellations. Hold your breath. Zero gravity can't keep the weight of my thoughts from making a crater on its surface. Try to get away. Can't get away from self. Tough lesson to learn in outer space. No one can hear my angst out here. Lonely soul, syncopated rhythms, not a DJ Shadow NPC thing. Instead, the sound of my spirit, a sound even South Asian cholesterol couldn't silence. Red light waving Mars, finally at peace in silence. Self-acceptance, found in the most unlikely of places. Thank you. Cool, and then I'm gonna do my final piece, which is called Reset. Hurtling down the reactionary road, I routinely trip up. Scuffed knees caressed with gauze and Dettol. Inhale the aroma of familiarity. Nostalgia only ever comes in rose-tinted lenses. Knowing this, I switch from hurtling to taking measured steps. Velocity only matters if you've plotted a course beforehand. Ready, fire, aim? My factory settings. Ready, aim, fire. Now I've recalibrated. Cool. Shabnam, how am I doing for time?
You're fine. If you've got another one.
I've got one.
You look like you kind of, you've got something else that you want to share with us. So by all means, please do.
I do. And again, this one I'm referencing actually, I'm referencing chapter 12 of the Quran. So there's just something that just popped up. I was writing something a couple of weeks ago, and it's called Not That Joseph.
Go for it.
How he had been captured, blindsided, miscarriage of justice. How to respond now? Scattered mind ricochets in 299 directions. Anger, resentment, blame, injustice. So much to focus on. Natural. But how useful? Focus on them too long, you create a prison within a prison. Russian doll of suffering, perfectly sealed sarcophagus. Luckily, he was well read, with a memory powered by autism. Remember Joseph, not the stepfather of the Son of Man, the other one. Draw strength from the best of narrations. He, Allah, will not burden you unjustly. Sit tight. Your spirit cannot be contained. Inevitably, your body will follow. Liberty is never far away. The harvest always yields. Thank you.
Thank you, Haroon. That was, again, illuminating set. Really good to kind of, get what's inside people and, what drives them. That was really interesting, that the differences in each of those, and yet there was this sort of common, it was like a melodic kind of that I got from you, that kind of went across all of those pieces. So thank you for joining us.
I'll get my socials in the, because I've got a blog that I run on socials. I'll put them all in the chat.
Yeah, please do.
Outside of this, I'm trying to work on my first collection of poetry, and I am also teaching myself screenwriting, and I'm working on my first short film. So in typical ADHD fashion, just you like, that's like Shabnam. People tell you focus on one thing. It's not possible.
You thankfully
put it this way. Look at the level of post-its and the way my brain, I have to put it up this.
I was going to say, thankfully you cannot see my desk. You can't see the fact that I have 7 books on the go, trying to read them all at the same time.
But it works. I actually, for years, I couldn't read, more than a couple of books in a year, and now I have 7 on the go. And I've already read 14 this year, so.
Exactly. So, like I said, great that, we've had such a range of representation. I think that's what I'm it's got me buzzing tonight, that there's been so many different people.
It's not just that it's different. I think the beautiful thing is, for me, being in a space where it's all South Asian artists, and actually it's, even though we're all from South Asia, it has quite, to say that it's been a kaleidoscope is an understatement of just voices, styles, experiences. Yeah. And I think as time goes on, for me, it's really so much more important wanting to hear and support other South Asian artists, and for us to sort of do that, because I just think, there's so many stories to be told.
Definitely.
Hopefully, God willing, we can sort of help each other to, create platforms and just put that sort of stuff out.
Absolutely, it'd be great, and I'm sure that Trey will be up for doing some more, and kind of getting everybody connected who has sort of been here tonight, and as we kind of move out into the real world and getting out there and actually meeting up with people again. Who knows? Let's get something organised, Trey, in a room, in a space. Very, very soon. That would be awesome. But thanks again, Haroon. That was great. Thank you. So now we've come to the kind of we're almost at the end. We just got me and you, Trey, and then our lovely friend Sabah, who is going to guest read for us. As I said at the beginning, Trey has kind of tricked me into reading something tonight. I didn't see my name on the set list. And I was like looking down at it and thought, wait a minute, that's me. So thanks, Trey. I would have liked to have actually written something else, and this might spur me on into doing so. Trey is very generous, and when you put it up on social media at some point a while ago, and you said something along the lines of that I'm dabbling in poetry and writing, which was a complete bollocks, because I'm not. I haven't got time for it, but I would love to. So yeah, I would have maybe liked to have written something new, but it will definitely spur me on. So I kind of said a bit about me. I, like a lot of us here tonight, struggled with what was my identity. But not outwardly. I think for a long time, I kind of saw myself as, well, I have to be white, because unless I do that, I don't fit in. And for somebody who is autistic and has ADHD and has pathological demand avoidance, fitting in is paramount, because otherwise you become a bit of a troublemaker. So I kind of followed all those paths. I've always been a bit of a maverick. I said to, can't remember who it was I was saying to, that I've never followed a rule in my life. But all of that I kind of embrace, and it's me. And my rebellion and my lack of identity caused different things to happen in my life, but without which I wouldn't have my kids, I wouldn't be where I am today. But there is definite trauma, as we've all talked about, and this deep-seated trauma that's come from partition, I think is something that we are going to be battling with for some time. And I don't know that any amount of reparations will make that right, will actually put it right. So I'm going to read you kind of spoken word piece, maybe. I'm not really sure what category it falls into, but it's called Skin Deep. Do you remember scuffing your knees as a child? Those deep scuffs, the ones that uncover the terrain of your limbs and leave behind unforgiving, rocky scabs. Because I do. I remember every single one, especially the ones on my knees, because those yielded the most prized of treasures. If I dug deep enough, they revealed a new landscape. They offered me the hope of becoming white. Being a skinny 8-year-old with dark brown skin, hair on your arms and your upper lip didn't really go down well, living in a white working class northeastern Newtown in the 70s. Go back to where you came from, Sambo, was the preferred slur on the playground. And then there was some less direct who chanted, brown girl in the ring, as if being some kind of circus act was any kinder. When I discovered that my scar tissue was practically white, I'd come off my bike on purpose, more times than not, wondering if I could achieve whiteness. I'd check each newly created patch of milky white skin and hope that by some fluke, my next fall would be at such an angle that the wound would be carefully placed next to the ones that came before. Being a white girl would shield me from the sniggers and the taunts, give me membership to any friendship group, allow me access to parties and play dates galore. But instead, I remained an exotic example, fulfilled the colonized stereotype of quiet, well-mannered, clever girl, and took over from the only other Indian and got to run the tuck shop. But it wasn't only my skin colour that singled me out in the classroom. My name seemed to grow syllables and an invisible collection of consonants or loose vowels. Selma, Siobhan, Serena. Why could people not pronounce my name? They could do Michael and Keeley. They rolled off the tongue without any hesitation. Was I missing something? S-E-E-M-A. S-E-M-A. Seema. Not that hard, surely. And then my surname? Anam. My parents should have taken their lead. They should have taken heed of my well-meaning childminders when I was a baby. A middle-aged British bulldog couple who thought it was marvellous that my parents had come here to finish their medical training, get a proper training in decent facilities. And bouncing me, little Babaji, on their knee, they christened me Anne-Marie. So I would write the name out again and again and again, like doing lines. It was my punishment, handed down to me by generations who had been conquered and then divided. Thank you. That's my little contribution to tonight's proceedings. As I say, not quite sure what that was, but it's kind of, again, this notion that we, you know, a lot of us have either hidden our real identities or we're forced to take on other ones. And it was just something that kind of I was compelled to write, I think, last year. Again, you know, Haroon, you were saying you were writing stuff in lockdown. I think that whole situation just caused people to reflect, and you needed to get something off your chest. And that's when, you know, I kind of thought about it a lot over, you know, many, many years, but sort of that last year kind of brought it out and put it onto paper. So I'm now going to hand over to Trey. I've got your biog here, Trey, but I'm not going to read it because I think everybody knows who you are. So Trey is my very good friend. He is the font of all knowledge, basically. There is nothing this man does not know. There's no book he hasn't read. There's no quote he can't come up with. He's great. He's kept me company at like 2 a.m. With his memes and his discussion about white fragility and racial tensions. And I love you with all my heart. So here he is, going to be reading something because we have time.
Hello. So we actually have time. Okay. I was speaking to Haroon and Aaron at the beginning of this session, and I was saying that I was writing a poem through the session, and if we got to the end, and it's if I think it was passable, that I would read it essentially. And of course, I'm not of South Asian heritage. I basically orchestrated this event to give South Asian artists a platform to speak about their experiences and so on in the UK. However, Rafi, my best friend, is South Asian heritage, and I've learned quite a lot about specifically culture in India from him, and history and so forth of that part of the world. And I actually went to India in 2016 before I started my undergrad. I wanted to see the country for myself, and how South Asia is presented through Western news cameras it's all propaganda essentially. They'll show you all the bits in poverty, but they won't show you how beautiful it is in that part of the world either, because it basically interrupts their ideas of whiteness and so forth. So, and I'm, I was supposed to say, some people call me an activist. I do Black history education work, and I do race education work, and I write poems and journalism articles about politics and that sort of stuff. So this poem was sort of semi-inspired by the history we don't teach at school, and World War II and Indian soldiers during the Second World War. I think it was 2.5 million Indians fought in the Second World War. Soldiers, sailors, and servicemen. And in 1943, there was the Bengali famine manufactured by the British Empire. Namely, Winston Churchill was behind all of it. Behind that, they had ample time to help Indians in 1943, but he chose not to, essentially because he didn't like Indians, and that's what evidenced in historical documents and so forth. So I call this poem, I think I'll just call it 3 million as a working title, because it was an estimated 3 million people that were murdered by Winston Churchill's inaction, essentially. So in teaching the Second World War, school curricula fails to teach the role of India. Moreover, the existence of the Bengal famine, but they teach us how Churchill led Britain to victory without discussing how he stood on the backs of names like Patel, Singh, and Choudrey. They taught me World War II in 50 Shades of White, omitting the role of a manufactured famine, because if we actually examined British history, we could see how lots of it happened overseas. See, despite what textbooks state about British history in World War II, on Poppy Day, we only hear stories about Wilfred, Owen, Albert, and Hugh, not the 2.5 million Indian soldiers that fought for Britain from the Somme to Passchendaele and Verdun, nor the estimated 3 million souls that Churchill cut off from food, even when Canada and the USA offered aid, all because he simply did not like Indians. The bodies piled high in their millions, and for many, these are quite new stories, narrating like how the British authorities took Indian rice in fleets when Bengalis had nothing to eat. Churchill said the famine was their fault for, and I quote, breeding like rabbits, end quote, refusing all aid to stop the famine, both from allies in Canada and the USA, and he was swilling champagne up to 4 million bodies stockpiled outside the pearly gates, and when partition came, the British made Pakistan. More Indians died by the million, and it didn't stop there. And of course, your Piers Morgans will argue abstinence, and your Keir Starmers will abstain. Feeding the centrist machine, spouting statements like this is not the time, blah, 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 regardless of the documents and oral histories. And curricula continues to treat this like a mystery, gaslighting second and third generation South Asians about their own history, whose own grandparents can recite partition and famine back like poetry from memory. Then partitions and the trains, millions displaced and murdered. Diaspora fragmented between Europe, the Americas, and Australia. Apart but together. Apart but together, and apart but still together, to grant some leave in history's arms. The trains lighting a car alarm heart in the viceroy of colonialism. But what can a black man tell you about India? I can tell you the young people still think about the night terrors wrought by the Union Jack. Churchill and saviours dressed as doctors. Walking down the streets of Hyderabad, as I did in 2016, I saw community and commune unity. The young call strangers auntie and uncle. I saw children on the streets and amputees grateful for the small things. I felt more at home in Hyderabad than I did in London. Community reminiscent of my more familiar Caribbean, united in our trauma under the British. Nostrils filled with Britain, blood and bone. India was home from home, wrapped in Jack Union's blanket, stitched in guilt, a country millions died to build. Near every Hyderabadi battle, Hyderabad, bricks and mortar, history repeating itself and again, red, white and blue. And the India died to build, at the end of a sword, doomed to die. There, Winston sings his lullaby. Activists protest. But what about when humans are laid to rest? So what bells for those who die as cattle? Only the monstrous anger of the guns. Look for amputees and the deformed on the streets of Hyderabad. What about women, pregnant and poor? Don't talk about the aftermath of colonial laws. Look for the brown bodies on makeshift stretchers as colonists don them, brutes and beggars. But this is how colonialism is, not in red soldiers and tanks, but in science, where colonizers stay colonizing, force-feeding thanks. Burning children of Kwashiorkor are staying power, staying the course. We put this term colonialism in the past, a mistake in a time of greed and patriarchy, producing bullets in munitions factories, of sugarcane, famine and kedgeree, racializing COVID as the Indian variant, as colonialism stands like cenotaphs, an Instagram story for likes and laughs, but attack me for ever talking about human rights and British colonization in 2020 vision of jaded juxtaposition. The nations of South Asia were also victims of British exploitations as they fight disease through the Corona Wars, where more than 2 in 5 countries remember colonial ambition of Churchill and Mountbatten. Yet this concept of empire is one relegated to over there. But these stories don't sit in our throats. Narratives of colonial violence happened at home and abroad, as my own ancestors too were colonized at the end of a sword. We are taught how Churchill led us through the war years, but not the stories of Indian and Pakistani tours. We are told how he led the charge with Dunkirk, but not how Britain drained India and worse. We are told about his achievements during wartime, but not what he thought of the Arab peoples of Palestine. Empire made careers for men like Wince and Kitchener and Mountbatten in the tint of the world wars as a battleground, because fighting for freedom sounds more profound than defeating Hitler to cling on to stolen regions, to hang on to African ivory and monsoon season. Empire was a flag like a makeshift stretcher, as brown bodies bent like double beggars. But when we tried to challenge Churchill on popular memory, I met with tired yawns and war fatigue of Piers Morgan's not wanting to confront their history. We teach our children that slavery was wrong, but then sing Winston Churchill's song. I saw statues to him in Toronto and Parliament Square. We tell a story that colonialism was a foreign affair, but it is the Union Jack, the World Wars, and England's heroes stitched in guilt, making films. Darkest Hour made for laughs, as Amritsar and Bengal stand like cenotaphs. Gary Oldman and the golden statue like a bus stop, as Indians split by partition in the sun were left to rot. We make these films like backpats and flattery, colonial genocides whitewashed by Hollywood munitions factories. Now, South Asian lives were lost in the wind of litany during the World Wars and then erased from British history. I wonder, considering #EndAsianHate, if this new anti-racist UK will hold more dead heroes to account today. not just the low-hanging fruit of the slave trade, but big fish like Sir Winston, whose crimes are also evident, like an elephant in the room, as our Prime Minister sings Winston's tune. How many innocents had to die so Winston Churchill could sing his lullaby, cradled in the womb of the Union Jack? In the footnotes of history into the past, gone gaunt in Britain's denial and fragility, a refusal to learn about this country's history. The Tories would never put Churchill in the dock, not like how they put Edward Colston on the chopping block. And on the national school curriculum, you're unlikely. This is the nature of modern Britain. This is a poem for the estimated 3 million Indians that were murdered in 1943, the victims and the survivors. Thank you very much. And that was a first draft that I wrote from, how long was this, Shabnam? Like 2.5 hours we've been sitting here. So, yeah, so it's first draft, it's unedited, so I know, I'm sorry if it sounds shit. So, but yeah.
Cracking lines in there, absolutely cracking lines. I told you, this guy, I mean, you can just do it without even thinking. You kind of, you go on and it's like this, spoken word, and then boom, there's a line that just floors everybody, and then do it again, and there's another one. It's just great, absolutely amazing. Like I said, I love this dude. It's kind of weird ending this event today, because I really do. I kind of feel like Trey is my surrogate son, and we're going to finish with my surrogate daughter, Sabah, who is going to talk about heritage and talk about exploring that. So I feel very privileged kind of, introducing the two of you, because I have much respect and much love for both of you. So from my son to my daughter, take it away, Sabah, please. You're not doing poetry, are you? You're kind of just gonna do some. You're gonna talk and explore, and people can do stuff in the chat if they want to, ask questions or whatever.
Yeah, by all means, it's like be as creative as you want, as much as you want to put into it. It's more about emotion. It's more about kind of feeling and what I've been left with. The reason why it's not a poem or anything that's like any type of literature is because I've actually struggled writing this. I can't write it in many ways. It's something so raw that can't be written down, but then I don't even feel like I can give it the time to articulate it.
No, I get that. Totally get that. Yeah. It
harks to that trauma of unsaid things because of partition, because of unsaid stories. And I think that's something growing up South Asia, and it's that storytelling just disappears because I'll get started. When you're growing up, you push it away, you push that storytelling away because you're like, well, no, I need to know through Goldilocks and the Three Bears. No, I need to know Little Red Riding Hood. This is way more important than me learning anything about South Asian storytelling. And then I grow through primary school, not knowing a single thing about who I am, just aspiring to this whiteness and pushing more of who I am to the periphery, or wearing my shalwar kameez behind closed doors, I'm ashamed of even who I am. And then you move on to high school, where you're even more rebellious, where you actually outright say, Mom, I'm not wearing that. Who do you think I am? I'm not walking the streets of Pakistan. Oh, I rhyme then. But it's rejecting everything, rejecting those material tropes, rejecting whatever I can in whichever way that I can. I'll become the extreme of being the antithesis of what it means to be a good Pakistani Muslim girl. I'll go to these gigs, I'll shut your mouth up, I'll keep going, and I'll be there in front of the band playing, and then I'll realize, who am I? I'm listening to this music, still not really finding myself, so I start listening to Screamo, so I don't really need to know the words. And then I realize that, who am I? And then ultimately you go round in circles, and then I went to college, and first experienced what death really was. I felt the loss of my grandma, and I was like, what can only be the best person in the world is gone. So that loss is something that made me realize maybe I should become closer to my religion and who I am. I pushed it away further. I went through the motions of what a Muslim girl should do, helped, prayed for my grandma and did what was my due. And then I realized, nah, this isn't for me. And I paused it, went to uni and carried on living at the expense and the ignorance, because I thought it was better than being who I am. And then I go through uni, which is English literature, which is very easy to forget who you are, because obviously literature was never in South Asia. And obviously we don't know what Wordsworth could be if we didn't learn what daffodils were from him. And then I go through this and I realize that there must be more. And I keep pushing and pushing, and then going out the front door. I realized that finally I'm all by myself. I'm like claiming what I can. I go to Germany and Spain, and then I realize, whoa, I'm an outsider. Outside the microcosm of Manchester, I realize that I have brown skin, and no matter how much I bleach my hair, it's still brown underneath. You realize no matter how hard you try, you're brown. You're brown. You can't hide that. You can't wash it away. And that's what they want you to think. It's a dirt, it's unclean, it's this filth that you need to clean, that you need to get rid of to finally fit in. It's not. You can lie in Dettol and lighten that skin, but you're still brown. And then it came, my mum died. And then I realized that was what I was pushing away. So I lost that tethering, that connection to being Pakistani, but somehow I became even closer to it. I wanted to mimic all those things that I didn't really want to know. I wanted to learn about what it meant to be Pakistani. So what I did was watch Bollywood films, because that's right. And then I realized, no, that's not quite it. I'm not really learning what it means to be me, because I lost that opportunity and I pushed it away. So storytelling is important, and we need to start it now, and we need to turn to our elders and listen to those stories. And then, as far-fetched as it is, I will call them elders, because actually it's those stories that are repressed and forgotten, and that's why partition is an insidious trauma we can't address, because we're not talking about it, and it's not a thing that's passed from generation to generation. We're searching it on our own, and that's always going to be lonely, and we're never going to find the right one. We don't know what happened to our own families, so that's why it needs to be spoken and not silent. Anyway, that was that. That was just like me going through my life, and it's pretty much tapped out here where I've finished parents' evening, and I can finally say we've had this chat. But yeah, I think the biggest thing for me is being South Asian, tell the stories and share those experiences, because when you don't, you lose it, and then there's no way to get that back. And I don't have that. I don't have that connection. I can't hear that story, and no matter how much I search it, I'm living through others. That vicarious living's not worth it. So yeah, that's where I'm at. You're right.
No, that was great, Sabah. Thank you for for sharing that. That takes a lot of courage, because that's come straight from the heart. And I think, I mean, the three of us doing the MA and looking at how academia sort of puts ideals, these white ideals of research and what is valid up on a pedestal, when actually, genuine, authentic storytelling from real people is where we get that knowledge. It's where we get the understanding of any kind of topic, any kind of whatever it is that you want to read about, actually talking to people. But certainly I think, for everybody who's been here this evening, I you know, so I'm 51, and listening to all of you who have come, you know, 10, 20, 30 years after me, to still hear that same story that I had in my head as a little girl, that, you know, I didn't quite belong, and I had to make myself belong to where I was at, but then I was shunned by both sides, and you just continue to push away. That to me is not acceptable. It's not, you know, it isn't right. And I mean, I insist on saying that, you know, racism and battling it, it is a safeguarding issue. You know, there are children across decades who have lived through trauma, whose lives have been changed and molded because nobody understood, because no one understood the difficulty of being a South Asian in this country, because no, we didn't understand. We don't, you know, we are living that trauma from partition. And I think that is something that we have to explore. You know, one of the great things about just listening to people is that it challenges your views about stereotypes. And I think it would be great actually to set up, you know, like a human South Asian library, where listening to, you know, your story, then listening to, like, you know, you had Aaron's story, you know, as a third generation. Like, what is that, you know, what does that mean? What is it that makes you you? Because you walk down the street, and any one of us could walk down the street, and to the general public out on there, you know, the white general public, we are all the same, and we have the same experience, and yet it is very, very different. So, you know, it would be great to kind of start something up and be able to kind of inform. I know it's not our responsibility. You know, we talk about this, that it's not Black and brown people's responsibility to educate. But this is not about educating in that way. I think it's something that's needed. It's cathartic, you know. And I think tonight has shown that we can all be there to support each other emotionally. It's been quite something. I'm left a little bit, you know, kind of teary-eyed actually. It's been fantastic to see the talent, but also to kind of hear that, you know, we're not alone. Our stories are not, you know, they're not single ones, and there are so many. So, you know, thank you very much, Sabah, for coming to that at the end of a very difficult day, no doubt, with parents' evening and all of that. So, you know, thanks again. Thank you to everybody who's turned up tonight. Thank you to everyone who's read or spoken. I have had an amazing evening. It's been, you know, quite something. It's been educational. It's been, everybody's made me feel really proud to be South Asian, and to share in all the talent that's out there. Thank you again to Trey for organising all of this, being the brain, you know, this is the brainchild of Mr. Trey Ventura. There will be many more, no doubt. Let's hope that, you know, maybe we can repeat these, and next time it'll all be in person. And I look forward to that very, very much. So I'll hand over to Trey. I don't know, Trey, if you want to say a last few words before we finish for tonight.
No, I think you covered everything, Shabnam. Just wanted to say thanks to everyone for performing. And you've given me a lot to think about as well, in terms of my own education and continued development as well. And thanks to actually Sabah for promptly coming in to speak. when I asked her at the last minute's talk as well about her experience. But yeah, that's it really. I don't think I've got anything else to say. I think you've said it all.
Well, in that case, thank you very much, everybody, and have a great rest of the evening, and all the best until we meet again. Thank you.